Welcome to Revenue Mind, where revenue leaders get real about mental health. I'm Jolie. Stick around for honest stories, practical insights, and why well-being is the real bottom line. Let's dive in. Hey everyone, welcome to the Revenue Mind podcast. I'm Jolie, your host, and with us is Ian. This is a podcast where we talk all things mental health, and super excited to have you on the show.
It's great to be here.
Yeah. Thanks so much for responding. I know typically you get a lot of requests. I really appreciate you being on and hopping on this podcast.
Happy to help. Anytime I can pay it forward with anything mental health, I try to do so.
Awesome. So the first question I usually start with, and I have quite a few questions, but we'll kind of riff on different ones. What makes you you?
I think authenticity. I think probably if I had to think about my superpower or what makes me relatable, it's authenticity. I think I've gone through a lot of struggles mentally, physically, spiritually, and it's like I am the human struggle. That's what I think is interesting, is like my life is a story of overcoming adversity or overcoming struggle, and I'm not afraid. In fact, I'm very open about sharing some of these struggles. So the purpose in doing so is to help people maybe who are in the position that I once was. And I think what's unique about me is I just have a lot of very interesting stories, and my life story is quite fascinating. And if you think about it, it's like, well, this how could this happen to one person? I lived in Venezuela for a year as a teacher, was in Australia for a year, just had some crazy relationships, was struggled with addiction, somehow got into sales and was the number one global performer at Salesforce, and almost lost my marriage. I met my wife at Tony Robbins. She was a firewalk partner. It's like, you can't make these things up. So when I think about what makes me, it's like this relatability of the human struggle, and kind of I can connect to people and see them for where they're at because I've been there most likely, or at least can empathize with that position from some of the experiences that I've had in my life.
That's amazing. I feel like maybe we're not two peas in a pod, but that's actually the very reason I started this podcast, was to help people like myself. I have obviously not the same story, but quite a story as well. And I think paying it forward really the past years has been something I never could have dreamed of with this and talking to people like you. So,
Well, if you think about it, a lot of our stories come from being focused on the self, focused on what we want, pursuit of our own happiness, pursuit of what we think we make us happy. And then we get there and it's like, oh, that wasn't it. And then go somewhere else. Oh, that wasn't it. And it's like, that's like the story of my life, is all these experiences are me chasing this thing that ironically was available to me the whole time. I just didn't know it. But I read my earliest journals from like high school, and it was like, I'm not happy here. And then, I don't want to be here. And it was this crazy, like, grass is greener on the other side. And then I realized it wasn't greener on the other side. So yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And that if there's addiction, I know we have some addiction stories as well. And I think if there's any telltale of like someone who's addicted, it's like they need that intoxication with like feeling and needing to feel alive. And oftentimes they turn to things that aren't healthy in order to feel. And so I think we're probably not that far apart in that sense.
yeah, definitely. It's interesting. For me, it was actually not to feel. It was actually to shut my brain off. But to your point, like chasing that, I call it chasing the high. It could be literally anything. Like I will, and obviously literally anything, a lot of AA programs, but like I went from, one substance to another addiction. Now I actually wanted to cross swap to cycling. So now I'm like cycling and hiking all the time. So like I have to constantly be doing something.
Yeah, I just signed up
Else
for
I
a
go crazy.
triathlon, so I can relate to that.
Oh, nice. That's awesome. How's training going?
I just ran 3.6 miles before this podcast, and I started swimming recently. I'm petrified of swimming in the open water, and I don't know what I'm doing with swimming. So it's going to be a journey, a learning journey of being able to learn the bike. I don't own a road bike, learn to swim. I'm just, to your point, it's like needing that thing to go after. It's very healthy if you set goals that are health or family or spiritual related, but when it's not and you're just searching for something, it's like you're filling a void. And it's both. You want to feel, but you also want to avoid the feelings that come when you're bored or restless or doing nothing. So it is, I think, both. I think it wasn't numbing necessarily. I couldn't be still. And I wasn't even aware enough to know that I was not wanting to feel anything. I just didn't like how I feel when I wasn't high or doing something new and exciting. I'll just call it that.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you don't, well, for me, I don't want to be in my own head.
Yeah.
So it's like constantly doing something. So I have a few questions. The first one is, when you're closing the biggest deals of your life and quietly falling apart at the same time, did anyone actually know? Like, for example, who got to see the real you, and what did keeping that hidden take out of you?
It's interesting because the quietly falling apart piece, I wasn't aware that I was quietly falling apart at the time when I was closing the biggest deals in my life. I was in addiction mode heavily during my peak years in Salesforce. So, in step one, we admit our lives are unmanageable. Had not admitted quietly falling apart feels like unmanageable. And I did not think my life was unmanageable. In fact, I thought I was pretty much, top of the world, the shit. So what was happening is I was in this deeply stressful and high pressure situation where I was working a lot, traveling a lot, had a lot of executives from Salesforce involved in the deals, and I had to keep it together, frankly. And so I'd keep it together. I was the definition of a functioning addict, if you want to call it that. But then I would just, once I had a chance to relax or escape really this because I had so much pressure on myself, I would do it in kind of these bingy ways. So just to give you an example, yeah, this is I don't love talking about it, but it's what happened. So like one of the times in 2018, I think it was, I was hosting like global executives from all around the world at our company conference called Dreamforce. And there was like a Metallica concert, and I had clients that I brought there, and I was drinking and partying with them. And then at the end of the night, like I snuck off by myself and I went to a strip club, and no one kind of knew it. Right. And then I'd wake up and I'd host all these people again. And it was like this stress relief through, getting drunk or high or attention from women or any of these things that I was doing. And it was just a cycle that it was in. It was very much a work hard, play hard type of cycle. And that was the cycle I was in for, I'd say, the better part of 20 years in sales. So it wasn't like a daily thing for me. It was like a build up, build up, build up, and then mess up. Build up. And you have to understand, I'm married, I have kids, so me doing these things is being kept secret at the time. I'm not sharing this with my wife or anything like that. So it's kind of like my secret that I'm hiding because I justify it or rationalize it like, well, I'm working so hard and I'm entitled to have my fun or whatever. But it wasn't, I didn't feel like I was falling apart at the time. It was only till I, hit a bottom when I realized that my life was unmanageable. But I think because I had gone on this way for so long, I remember so many President's Club trips. I would go, and there was one other story. I was in, it was the Bahamas, and we were going to play on like this crazy golf course, and I was playing with the executives, and I stayed up drinking all night and gambling all night, and I totally missed this golf tournament that was with all the execs, and I couldn't even get out of bed. And like that was normal for me at these President's Clubs. So I have literally countless stories like that, but it was always I'd say in an environment where somehow I got out, somehow I was able to function and not get fired, and just got so many like get out of jail free cards dealt to me. I had been, yeah, I can give lots of stories, but like I just got away with a lot of shit. And so I kept doing it until, like I said, until it nearly cost me my family. And then that was when I got sober. So yeah, I would just say it was like, it was the normal for me. I didn't realize I was falling apart. It's a long answer to your question, but that's the true answer.
Thank you so much for your bravery and your honesty opening up with that story. That was, I'm sure a lot of people, unfortunately and fortunately, can relate.
I think in sales and in business for sure.
I remember I was in B2B SaaS working with the sales teams for a very long time. And there was, I mean, it's kind of dorky to say, but like the sales bro culture and the president's club and like, the large hyper growth SaaS companies. I mean, you have the Salesforces, but you also have like the mid market to like baby enterprise where it's double, triple, double, or triple, triple, double, or whatever that expression is. And, people are, it's almost like being in an investment bank. I kind of look at the two like a little bit of that, of the same, not the same, but similarities. What are your thoughts on that? And like that hustle bro sales culture.
I think I lived that. I think I was the king bro. I mean, it literally was my life. It's mostly men and people with egos, and you put money in the equation. It's like boys who never grew up that are now in these high paying jobs, and you see it like Wolf of Wall Street, or you see this culture of hard partying and celebration and drugs and alcohol, and I think it is accurate. At least at Salesforce, that was very common, and I'm sure in tech, even in smaller companies, it's the same thing. It's the same industry, same type of pay, same. If anything, the bigger companies. I mean, we had like alcohol in the office, and at the end of the year parties, there would everyone be drinking in the office, and it was I think eventually got banned because so many people got in trouble. But I can't tell you how many stories I have throughout my career of people getting fired for inappropriate comments or conduct or sexual, abuse. We'll just call it that. Unwanted advances or touching. It happens all the time, and it happens with senior level leaders too. And there's a lot of lawsuits and settlements, and this stuff never reaches the public because it settles and people sign NDAs, and they can't talk about it. But I having coached now thousands of tech sellers, I hear the stories firsthand, and I think it's not just sales, it's athletics, it's politics, it's anyone who has power and money and a lack of morals. You put them, you put those ingredients together, it makes for bad behavior. So I for like I said, my stories were not such where I got fired or anything like that, but I definitely can relate to that party culture and the tech bro culture because I lived it for 20 years.
So you're an anti-tech bro now.
I am the opposite now. I'm a family man. I'm a man of God, and I converted. I got baptized a year and a half ago, and I genuinely, my heart's desire is to model a different way to live, and very much centered around values versus greed and excess.
I love that. I'm assuming, well, I don't want to make assumptions. Did you learn that through the 12-step program?
That's where it all started. Yeah, I think it was a combination. I mean, I think humility is the foundation of getting sober, right? And then spirituality is the underlying medicine. It is having a belief that a higher power can restore you to sanity and can be able to uh, do what I couldn't do on my own. So I think spirituality was the yeah. I think if I think about like my old life versus my new life, it started when I got sober 6.5 years ago. It started when I got into 12 steps. That's when my values shifted overnight into um I'm Christian, and the values is what in Christianity is called the fruit of the spirit, which is self-control and kindness and humility and righteousness and patience and honesty, integrity, these values, which are more godly values versus human values. I was not living, and I was living in shame, where I did these things and I locked the skeletons in the closet and I'd go about my life like everything was normal. But then underneath the surface, I had all these secrets. And so part of my recovery was opening up and sharing my darkest secrets with my wife and my therapist, and making amends to people that I had harmed. So it kind of forced the spiritual journey on me, because I was so committed to getting sober. But yeah, I would 100% attribute my shift in values and anti-tech bro. I mean, I think I think it's part of the journey. I've also done men's work with men's groups. I've had a spiritual coach. I have a business that is a coaching business where I get to serve people and help them live the life that they want for a living. So that's helped, having a career that I'm devoted to service. Going on podcasts like these, like my life is just very different. There's still remnants of addiction, and there's certainly behaviors that are, we're human, we're not perfect, but I strive. When I slip, it's very evident to me that it's out of integrity, and it's like, okay, what's going on? And then I go lean into spirituality again, because I'm like, something's off here. So I think it's a lifelong. Honestly, like, you're not like fixed. You don't snap a finger and become this other person. I think it's more like this lifelong pursuit of becoming the person that you're proud of, and then having those slips and those moments where you're out of integrity be few and far between. That to me is like a sign that I'm on the right track, versus like, you know, having them be more daily. Because it's not just like addiction, it's not just using, it's like temper, it's how you talk to people, it's how you feel. I don't know about you, Jolie, but like, I feel my addict coming on. Like, I feel the addict coming on when it's like this restless irritability, distractedness, inability to focus. And like, I call it my addict, but to me, yeah, it's more like there's a deep awareness of these feelings, because I'm not medicating in escaping, so I can attune to how I'm feeling, and then find the right medicine. Or a lot of times the medicine is like pulling back, and it's like less activities, less stress, less demands. That to me is where a lot of the healing occurs, is when I'm doing less, not more.
Yeah, I guess I probably do get irritable when I'm not, close to the 12 steps. I start getting I like how you said the addict brain, or your
Yeah,
addict comes
my
back.
addict. Yeah.
Yeah,
My addict like wants to do something. It like needs to like be doing something.
exactly.
That's the only way to describe it. And it's like, okay, if I have this like deep need, like, where's that going to take me? Usually it's probably not good places. Now it's like my phone, or I'll just scroll or something like that. That's not as harmful as, going to a strip club, but it's or getting drunk, or smoking weed or whatever, but it's absolutely the same place. I'm just not going to the dark side. I'm just going to numbing out in a different way.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like the whole thing with numbing out, I don't think it's just addicts, you know? I
It's
think
not.
it's
It's
I mean,
not.
the doom scrolling in general, I have never seen there's someone I met, I have never seen that. I just spent, like, a few days with them. I never seen someone doom scroll, quote, unquote, or scroll through their phones so much with YouTube Shorts, TikTok Shorts, like, oh,
Mm.
and I'm like, how are you how are you like, how is your brain even functioning right now?
It's
It's
not.
that same exactly, yeah, it's the same numbing out.
It's not. You're just kind of consuming. There's not really any thinking. You're just there's no
Exactly, yeah.
function. I think, like, proactively using your brain. You're not. You're just like taking stuff in. Yeah,
Exactly.
it is addiction. Addiction is very real, and I think addiction. If I had to, you know guess, I'd say the majority of people are addicts, and the word addict gets a bad rap because it's associated with, being in the street shooting up heroin. But the truth is, a lot of people are addicted to food, or they're addicted to their phones, or they're addicted to shopping, or they're addicted to something. Maybe they're addicted to work, right? It's just they didn't reach a bottom where they felt like it was getting in the way. But I can't tell you how many people, I mean, half of marriages end in divorce, right? Why are people getting divorced? Well, a lot of the times it's disconnected, right? They're not connected with their partner because they're in their own world and they're doing their own thing. And it's like the opposite of addiction is connection, right? And so if you think about being isolated and in your head and disconnected, like then a lot of people probably meet that definition, you know?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So when I was in AA, my or program, so I didn't necessarily go after the spirituality, but I really my mom always said you can pick a rock, just pick something. So my thing was connection. So the community was actually my anchor.
Mhm.
And since then, it actually inspired the podcast. I did the 1990. And then a couple years later, after like, it was like 2024, or yeah, 2024, after like three layoffs during the tech recession, I'm like, I'm going to start a podcast.
Mhm.
Because I've quite a story as well. And I liked your point that you said earlier, like it allows you to empathize with people. I think that, and I feel like, I don't know, when I get around my sober friends, I don't know if this happens to you, but I'm laughing because it's so bad. We kind of just like, it's not really war stories, but it's like you're around your people, so you're like, yeah, I did da da da, or I did da da da. Because really, I guess I don't know if that happens to you, but it's not good to do war stories. But sometimes it's like we call it trauma dumping, where we're just like kind of spitball all of our shit.
Well, it's hard to
Because you're
believe, some of the stuff. And it's like, it's probably healthier to share some of that and like remind yourself of who you were so you don't go back versus locking it up. So I don't know if it's that unhealthy to share the war stories, but I for a while when I was sober, it's like I couldn't even think about like what I had done, or I didn't want to, like it was like locked. I mean, I shared everything obviously with with the 12 steps and with my wife. I had to do a confessional as part of my recovery and therapy. Is I had to go literally tell my wife everything I had ever done in secret. And that was like the hardest thing I'd ever done because, I was my addiction was compulsive sexual behaviors. So I was watching porn and going to strip clubs and webcams and all kinds of, activities that were not okay in a marriage, in my opinion, even though they are normalized. I knew my wife wasn't okay with me watching porn, or certainly the type of porn where there's people on camera. That's not that's not okay. She told me when we got married, she's like, Ian, please don't go to a strip club, please, for your bachelor party. She begged me, and I'm like, what's the big deal? And she said, Ian, that's cheating. I said, no, it's not. I'm not kissing anyone. I'm not, you know, doing anything with them. And she's like, I think it's cheating to look at another woman that's naked, that's not your wife. And I totally dismissed it. I didn't really, my wife's a devout Christian, and I didn't really understand what she meant because I had never read the Bible. I had never had any spirituality or religion in my life. So I just kind of like said, okay, well, I'll just do it in secret. So every few months so I had to go back and look at every single time I had gone and pull up old credit card bills and pull up old bank statements. And like any time I had spent money at like 11 p.m., I'm like, oh, that can't be good. So, that was like the hardest thing in the world. It was the hardest thing in the world. And once I did that, I knew that she could leave me if she wanted to because I'd kept all these secrets. And for a while we were separated. We were separated, and then she came back and she gave me a chance because I had stopped completely, and I still stopped. It's been 6.5 years. And by God's grace, I don't participate in any of those activities anymore. But um, I just didn't want to go back after having that traumatic experience of like having to share with my best friend and my love the things I had done that were betrayal for her. It was like I couldn't even look. It was like a different person had done those things. It felt like that wasn't me. It was a different person entirely. It was completely out of body, and it still feels that way. I still do not know how I could have done the crazy things that I did in my life and I haven't even scratched the surface, and I probably won't go on the air and share the craziest of stories because there's a lot of like, we'll just call it sales activity that is not selling software. So yeah, I could have been arrested. I could have been killed. I could have, to think that like I made it out somehow and was able to get to like, not just, I mean, I had 70 employees at Rico. I was running a $60 million company. Then I go to Salesforce, and then I, get sober, and like, now I'm running a Fortune, not Fortune, a Inc. 5000 coaching business. We are the fastest growing coaching company in the world. We just made the Inc. 5000 for the second year in a row. So how the hell does that happen to someone who has doing these things? I don't know. I just say it's a testimony to God, and that I've been protected and watched, and that there's bigger plans for my life. And those plans are about showing people a better way to live. And those plans are about helping people experience the joy, the love, the grace that comes on the other side of recovery, and that comes from living a life that you're proud of.
I love that. Yeah, there were plenty of, I won't even get into it either. I don't have a, I, I really should be dead.
Well, I
I
believe it.
should be dead. I should not be on this earth right now. Now I did survive a divorce. So there was that. My marriage did not last. You were being so open, so I figured I'd share. I actually, I got in a car accident. I was 2 years dry and went to a work party and had like, I don't know, 1, 2 drinks, but because of the medications I'm on, it like amplifies it by like 4. So it was like
Yeah.
having 6 drinks, if that's the right math.
Mhm.
And got in the car and I went to the back road through the back roads. Thank that some, I don't know what was watching out. Something was watching out. Universe, God, whatever you want to call it. I took the back roads and slammed into probably a couple things. Wires were busted. Drove an hour home, and I was still okay. If I
Bro.
took the highway, gone.
Yeah, I crashed my car into a tree going 50 miles an hour when I was 25, pissed drunk out of my head. So it's like that. And somehow, like, the car was smashed up like an accordion, airbags went off, and I was with a buddy, and like somehow, I think because we were so drunk and loose, our bodies were just really flexible. And, I got out of it. And actually, the cops pulled us over on the way home. We were walking home. The cars crashed. This is just another example of getting lucky, but the car was smashed, and the cops were on their way to the scene of the accident. One of the homeowners, it was right in front of someone's house, and one of the homeowners called the cops, and the cops saw us walking, and they pulled us over, put the lights on us, made us sit up in the curb, and they said, "Excuse me, guys, we just got a call about an accident that two men fled the scene right near here. Do you guys know anything about it?" And I looked the officer in the eyes and I said, "I don't know what you're talking about." It's like, "Where are you coming from?" I'm like, "We just went out and we're walking home." And the cops had been on their way. They hadn't gotten to the car. They hadn't been able to check the license plate or the registration of the car. So they couldn't connect us at all. They took our IDs and left. And that was literally went to sleep, went back the next day. The car had been impounded. They had given it was like a misdemeanor hit and run. The tree was the hit. It wasn't a person. It was a tree that was hit, and they were saying it's damaged property. And I got an attorney. I just told him I fell asleep, and they couldn't prove I was drunk. He's like, "Look me in the eyes, tell me the truth." I'm like, "I fell asleep," and I had no problem lying to like cover my tracks. But I not only should I have been dead, I should have gotten a DUI. I should have, been arrested. Like, I just can't tell you. If I think back to those things, it was just a different person in a different world. And I can't say I'm ashamed of those things because I don't carry shame. And I think shame is the lowest grade emotion that anybody can have. But I would say I'm shocked. I'm shocked that I could do those things, and knowing who I am now and how healthy I am now and how committed I am as a husband, as a father, and as a Christian. I think that somehow I just had angels watching over me, or what. And then I can name, I write these things down, but like I call them God shots. It's like times when I was like protected, and it's like it's really, for me, it's encouraging. It gives me a lot of faith and hope that my life has purpose and I'm here for a reason. And I've made it out stronger, and I yet to be determined, but I started a podcast too. And, I want to write a book about some of the stuff, the transformation that I had, but like, I'm definitely committed to like helping people not live in the way that is destructive and empty. And yeah, I had a lot of money and success, but inside I was empty inside.
I think what really impress isn't even the right word, but what I think what gets to me the most and what makes me, I don't know if you have that feeling in AA or sorry, a program where it's like, you have kind of like this whoosh, like kind of in your chest when you're in different places. I don't know if it's ever happened to you, but it happened to me as I was listening to your story. And I just think what's so amazing is that, you took one life and you just completely transformed it to another. And I think a lot of that was, you could call it divine intervention, God shots, but really, in my opinion, all the above, but your bravery to be able to do that and that grit and that, go get them. I mean, that's corny, but like
Yeah.
my parents say little engine. Yeah, I have a ton too. Like my parents always call me a little engine that could, from going to almost permanent disability to now, it's like we made it. Um,
Yeah, the
but
will and the
yeah.
desire to
Mm.
to yeah, I think, knock on wood, hopefully this wouldn't happen, but I think optimism and hope and action, you can achieve anything. I really believe that.
Yeah. So speaking of, would love to hear. I know you mentioned that you were open to sharing your rock bottom. That'd be wonderful for the listeners just to relate in here.
Yeah, so I want to like be clear on something. I think a lot of people want to change. A lot of people, feel like they have some bad habits or vices or addictions, and like I want to change, but I've tried, and yeah, I can't necessarily do it on my own, but then maybe it's not such a big deal, or maybe I'm not ready. And there's a lot of justifications. And if you go into these rooms, these 12-step rooms, these AA rooms, and for anyone again who's sober curious, AA is Alcoholics Anonymous, but if you want to stick a lot of different letters in front of AA, these are any addiction. So MA would be Marijuana Anonymous for people who smoke weed and maybe don't want to smoke every day or feel like it's maybe not helping them become the person they're meant to be, right? GA would be people who might gamble, might go online and gamble or bet a bunch on the World Cup and you're just a degenerate gambler. Or it could be Overeaters Anonymous or Shopaholics Anonymous or in my case, Sex Addicts Anonymous. And that's anyone who would engage in any type of compulsive sexual behavior. So it could be something like pornography use, where they're using it regularly in secret. And, if you don't want to stop, fair enough. But in my case, I did want to stop because it led to other things. It led to me going to strip clubs. And in some cases, it led me to go on webcams. And so I was in the program called SAA, which is basically anyone who seeks to stop watching porn or stop engaging in activities that are out of integrity with their relationship. So for me, it was out of integrity. I don't know how I would do it if I was single, but I'd say for many married men, the stuff that they're doing is in private. They're not telling their partners, and that was the case for me. I wasn't sharing what I was looking at or what I was doing with my wife because I knew she wouldn't be okay with it. And I think that's probably the case for most people. I would say no judgment here. If you want to share openly with your partner what you do or what they do, and they're cool with you going on OnlyFans and looking at other women, like more power to you guys. But that's not the case with the vast majority of men that are in the program that I'm in, SAA. They're like, I did this stuff in secret. I didn't tell my wife, and she found out, and it nearly cost, or it did cost our marriage, right? So think of affair partners, think of strip clubs, massage parlors, prostitution, pornography, OnlyFans. These are all would be bumped in. These would all be bucketed into what you would call compulsive sexual behavior or sexual addiction, right? Doing anything that you is not what you want to do, just like alcoholics would drink and get drunk and get out of control. It's the same kind of thing, right? So what happened with me, for context, is I had been engaging these behaviors periodically. I'd say, wasn't anything that I considered unmanageable, or I certainly didn't think I was cheating. I didn't have girlfriends or have affairs. So I was like, well, I'm just doing what guys do. Right. So that was my story for most of my adult life. And on December 28th, 2018, I get stuck on a roller coaster. Okay. Upside down. And I was hanging there for 30 minutes. And that was my, we'll call it career rock bottom. I had realized in that moment I had been selfish my whole life. I had been greedy my whole life. I had been just, call it what it is, like just very self-centered. And I had all these gifts. I was the number one rep at Salesforce, and I had just been using my gifts to serve others. And as I was hanging out that roller coaster, I'm like, if I died, this realization, if I died right now, I thought I was going to die because we're upside down and I'm up there 30 minutes. And I'm like, if I died right now, my life would have been wasted. All of these gifts, all these things about me, like I've kept to myself. And I made a commitment. I started praying. This is my first spiritual awakening. I started praying to God. I said, God, get me down from this coaster. And I promise I will start helping people right now. And when I did that, the ride started, it took off. And that was like, okay, there is a God. That was my biggest God shot. And I kept that commitment. I actually started making videos on Instagram, and I made a video every day to help people live a better life. Well, meanwhile, this whole next year, I'm still in my addiction. So I still have these secrets. One of the days I went to Vegas, I binged hard and I totally slipped up, and I still had to make a video because I made a commitment to make a video every day. And I'm sitting hungover in the hotel, making this. And so this continued on for a year of me coaching and making videos and, speaking. And I was getting good publicity. And then I had this dark side, the secret that I hadn't dealt with yet. And so I kind of knew I had to stop if I was going to be a coach and really serve from the heart, because it felt inauthentic. And so I quit. I quit on my own, going to strip clubs. I'm like, my wife's not cool with this. I had been addicted to strip clubs, and I quit. I would go, several times a year. It wasn't like a daily thing or a weekly thing even, but it was like a quarterly thing. And every time I went, I was my secret. I was secretive about it. I was sneaky about it. I would take out cash and and hide it. And just that's how it's addiction, is when you're sneaky and very intentional. And so I did that with my, with my strip club stuff. And I knew my wife, how she felt about it. So that I stopped. I just stopped. It stopped in July of 2019, about 6 months after the roller coaster incident. Cause I'm like, I can't keep doing this shit if I knew I had a problem. I fucking knew I had a problem. And after one binge, I literally drove myself to an SAA meeting, and they told me what it was. And I'm like, I'm out. No way. I can't do that. So I left. I wasn't ready. I'm like, I'm going to do it on my own. So this is in July of 2019. Okay. And I stopped. I stopped entirely, but I really didn't stop. So at that time, I discovered webcams, which I considered to be this virtual strip club. I was like, well, this is the internet. And it was literally women stripping on camera. Now OnlyFans is blown up. And so now it's, I'd say normal. But at the time, OnlyFans, I don't think existed. And so I was, paying women, for real women for to go on camera, or to do what, you get the point, right? It's the stuff that people do on OnlyFans now. So I was doing that. And then I was doing that for 6 months. And then I heard another God shot, and it was my guilty conscience. It's okay, I quit, but I'm still doing this thing. I just want to get my wife's permission. I want to know that she's cool with this. That was my way of relieving the guilt, And so I asked her on a random day in February of 2020, after I'd been 6 months free of strip clubs, and I thought I was sober. I literally thought I was sober at this time. I said, honey, how do you feel about a virtual strip club? I think I asked her what that. She's like, what's a virtual strip club? I'm like, it's a site where you go and women, will strip, but it's basically like fantasy. It's like a strip club, but it's digital. And she's like, that exists? And I said, yeah. She's like, do you go on those? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, well, how often do you go on those? I'm like, I don't know. Every few weeks, I guess. I just want to see how you felt about it. I want to get your thoughts. I know you're not okay with strip clubs, but how do you feel about this? And she's kind of like taking it in. She's like, I don't know. I'm not really cool with that, Ian. And I'm like, okay. She's like, and I don't remember what happened. I think I went back to work. It was like a lunch or something. And I came back that afternoon or that evening, and she had all my credit card statements printed out. Yeah, she had all my credit card statements printed out. And she's looking at them, and it's highlight, and it's like $5 here, $10 here, $3 here. I mean, it wasn't like a ton of money, but that's not the point. She saw a bunch of highlighted things over 6 months. And so it turns out I had been going every couple weeks. So over 6 months, that was, 12, 15, whatever. And she's like, what the fuck is this? She was so mad. I'm like, oh, this is the thing I told you about. And she's like, this is not cool. And then she just started like, just crying. And then it got like really scary. She just started like uncontrollably like wailing. And then she started convulsing and shaking. She started shaking like a child, like in the fetal position. She fell to the ground. And it was like, oh my God, what have I done? I hurt this one. And she was just like sobbing uncontrollably. It was like, what have I done? Because one thing, if you think you're doing something to yourself, it's another thing to see the person you love that you've hurt in front of you on the ground. And then it got like life threatening, where she started having contractions. She was pregnant, and she was 4 months pregnant. And I'm like, we got to go, honey. We got to go to the doctor right now. And so we literally went from like bad to worse. And on that car ride, I'm thinking she's about to, have a miscarriage, because she was 4 months pregnant, and you can't go into labor at 4 months. So I'm praying to God, praying with all my heart. I said, God, do not take this baby. I will do whatever it takes. I will get help. I will do whatever it takes. Do not take this baby. It's one thing to think you're hurting yourself and no one else is affected. It's another thing to think you're hurting the love of your life and causing them pain. It's a whole different level to think you've caused the death of your child. And that's what I was thinking at the time. I think I literally would have caused the death of my son. And that scared me. Sober, we get to the doctor, and he does the ultrasound. I literally was petrified. I called my mom on the car ride. I'm like, Mom, come to the hospital. Something's going on. I think Sandy's having a miscarriage. And I was so scared, and I was just praying. I just prayed like with all my heart. I said, God, just help me. Please don't take the baby. Please don't take the baby. And we get to the doctor. He puts the ultrasound device on her stomach. And for like the longest 20, 30 seconds, I thought there wouldn't be a heartbeat. He looks up and he's like, there's a heartbeat. I'm like, oh, thank God. He's like, the baby's okay. I'm like, thank God. Thank you. And he's like, what happened? Did you cheat on her? You got a girlfriend or something? And I said, well, something like that. I'm like, have you seen that before? He's like, I see it all the time. Men who are hiding and their secrets come out and nearly causes a miscarriage or, a contraction. So I asked the doctor, I'm like, what happened? What are these contractions? She's like, Ian, these aren't labor contractions. She's not in labor. These are stress contractions. She's traumatized, and this is stress, and this is her body having stress, but the baby's okay. And that was it for me. That was the day I got sober, and I never looked back. It's been 6.5 years since I've gone to a strip club or webcam or massage parlor or anything like that. And I truly, like, it took that fear of losing my son and that seeing the pain I was causing my wife. And I'm like, I will never hurt my wife again. I will never, I'm going to face this thing. And so my next like visit was to SAA, and I got on online, and my sponsor was leading the meeting, and he agreed to be my sponsor. And then I got into, I found a therapist specializing in sex addiction, and, this is common. It's a very common thing, to the point where these meetings are every hour on the hour all around the world. And it felt so nice to know that I wasn't broken. And then I found my faith, and I realized that, like, this was in my human nature, and that there was a better way to live through Christ, and that I wasn't broken. And that became its own journey, to me getting baptized. But I think that it's important to realize, like, for people to change, the pain of staying the same has to be greater than the effort to change. And that's why in those rooms, almost everyone has a rock bottom. Everyone has a story where it was like, I could have died. In my case, it was, I could have killed, my unborn son. And that, to me, is what it took. I hope and pray that it doesn't take that. But unfortunately, that seems to be the pattern in those rooms, where a lot of the people get there because they reach a bottom in that, and they say never again. And that's kind of what happened to me. So it wasn't this like snap your finger, it was literally me reaching a point where I fully surrendered. And as I said, I will do whatever it takes. And um, thank God that the baby was okay. My son Luke he'll be 6 next month. He's healthy and happy, and he's a miracle boy. And our family is, my wife and I will be 13 years married in August. And we overcame, the hardest time during that period where I just got sober and I had to confess everything. But now, I mean, I know what a healthy marriage looks like, and marriage is super hard, but it's a lot harder if you have secrets that you're hiding, and there aren't secrets in our marriage. And that makes it a lot easier to, to be a team.
Wow, that's an incredible story, and I'm really happy that everyone's okay, that you're okay, that your son's okay, that your wife's okay, that that you all survived that. I definitely get the secrecy, and you think you hit your rock bottom, like yourself with the roller coaster, and then you keep doing it. For me, the car accident that I told you about, I
Mhm.
kept drinking.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I got, something really, really awful happened it was an encounter with a guy. Next day, I was like, I'm done.
Done.
I'm
Yeah.
done. That's fucking it. I'm fucking done. This is never happening again.
That's exactly what happened to me. And again, I think it's interesting because I share some of this online. I share, my story, but like, I think what I'm proud of, what I'm most proud of is like that I show up for my wife and my kids, and that I'm a good husband and father. Not always, but I certainly don't do anything that's harmful. And again, I don't know if you have a male audience or female or both, but like, I just cannot speak highly enough about honesty in a marriage, being honest with how you feel about whatever's going on, and certainly being honest. If you were to tell your partner every single thing you did in the shadows, what would they think and what would they feel? And that's what the true test of an honest marriage is. And I passed that test. I literally took a lie detector afterwards, and showed her that I didn't have anything I was hiding. And it was the healing medicine. It really was. It was the medicine of saying, like, everything about me now, and it's your choice whether you want to stay or leave. And I'll just add one more thing. Like, during that post recovery, few months, there was a time when she went to stay with her mom for a week, and I was by myself, and I didn't know if she would come back. And I felt at peace because it was her choice and I had God. I felt deep, deep love from my higher power, that I had been honest, and that I was being honest, and I wasn't continuing to act out and continuing to hide secrets. And for me, that, again, for anybody who's struggling with this particular addiction, where you're and it's millions, Jolie, it's millions. The OnlyFans popularity now is through the roof, and people are accepting it as, you know, women's rights or men's freedom. But that's fine for the women if that's what you want to do. Like, I'm not saying you can't use your body or however you want to do it. I have no judgment there. What I'm saying is, for the men at least, be open with your partner of exactly what you're doing, what you're paying, who you're with, and see how they feel. And if they're cool, then more power to you. But that's not happening. I feel like there's more to my story than just addiction recovery. It's more about like marriage and what makes a happy, healthy marriage. Because that's the thing I'm proud of, is that I saved my marriage even after I had and I'll give every bit of credit to my wife. Her forgiveness and her grace and her compassion during that time. It wasn't like she just said, "Oh, sure, don't do it again." Like, she wanted to leave me, but she was pregnant and she didn't have a job. I was the sole breadwinner, and she's like, "I got to figure out what I'm doing. I don't know." But like, when she saw that I was putting my recovery first and our family first, she saw the shift, and she said, "This is the person that I want to be with." But she didn't have to. She could have just shut off and said, "I'm out." And I think many women would do that. But this is so common. It's so common that you hear it all the time in the news. You hear all the people that are you just hear it every day from celebrities or whatever. But the everyday person is also hiding and participating in these things, and that's fine. That's fine if you're on the up and up with your partner. That's all I would encourage people, is like, if you know your partner is not going to be okay, stop. If you can't stop, get help. you know.
No, I really appreciate you saying that, your story isn't all addiction, because it's how it's actually how I kind of view my own life, like my, neurodivergency or XYZ diagnoses or whatever. It's a part of my life, but it's not all of it. It's
That's
part of
right.
your story, and it's who you become. But I mean, maybe we can have a follow-up episode, maybe like 6 months, about what it takes to have a good marriage, because that would be
I
a
love.
really interesting episode.
I keep trying to tell my wife, like, to come on my podcast or to come to my events that I host, and we host retreats, and
Nice.
she's like, nope. She's pretty shy about it. But I'll put, this is our wedding pre-wedding picture.
Oh, that is
Um,
so
yeah,
cute.
yeah. She's
Oh,
sweet, but she won't go on camera. She's very. I'll show you one more. This is
sure.
a little. This is our little baby Luke. This is the miracle baby after he was born with my wife, and
He's
it's
so
like,
cute.
yeah, I'm just like, again, my life, my recovery, my story is a miracle. It's a testimony to the power of God, and the ability for people to change and to live in a way that they're proud of. And I just want that for other people. That's what I'm here for. Be it selling more, be it having a better marriage, be it getting sober from whatever whatever it is you struggle with, right? Or if it's just just being happy in your daily life, like that's what I want for people, because most of the time that's how I feel. I live a very blessed life, but it wasn't. It was by design. It was through a lot of work, and I do have the compass. I feel it. And I'm ADHD too. You talk about neurodivergent. I was on Adderall. Part of when I got sober, I stopped getting drunk, I stopped smoking weed, and I stopped Adderall. So once I gave up porn in the compulsive sexual behavior, all those other addictive behaviors, I became way more aware of, and then I stopped those too. So it was like this. Now I'm just bored. Like, if I want to do something, I have to run, or I have to meditate, or I got a journal, or like I have other tools, but like I don't have any of my mind altering tools. That's for sure. So yeah, you kind of have to replace all the things that you have to replace the things you used to go to. Cause I had all of them and I dropped all of them. It was all of it at once. So it's like, I'm not sober from alcohol, but I don't get drunk. I'll have 2 drinks, and that's good. Certainly don't take ecstasy, mushrooms, coke, any of the hard drugs or anything. But I think that's another important point, is like, pick the poison, the thing, everybody's got the thing. Focus on that thing. Focus on that thing. If your thing is alcohol, start with alcohol. My thing was porn, start with porn. If it's weed, weed. But you don't have to be sober from everything. So I still have some wine. Once in a while, I'll go to a concert, I'll have a gummy, feel good. I just, like, I'm not, you know what I mean? Like, it's not, you got it. Sobriety is different because everyone has different vices, and pick the thing that's unmanageable, that's hurting your life. And that's where you'd start. Find a 12-step for that specific thing. That would be my advice for anyone, because substitute alcohol, porn, whatever, pick your poison. There is a 12-step for that, and start there and go through the 12 steps and watch how you transform from the inside out. And then all the other addictive behaviors become much easier to reduce or stop altogether.
That's great advice. Thank you. I know you've quite the following on LinkedIn, but where would you like us to find you? People that are
I
listening.
think LinkedIn. I mean, I'm mostly, I'm a sales coach, so I mostly teach tech sellers how to sell, but my program is life coaching as well. It's very much um, how to achieve success outside of work, not just inside. So we focus a lot on health, and we focus a lot on like working less hours and not grinding, so you can spend more time with family and doing the things you love. That's the life I live, and I think that's a lot of the stuff I post at. But if you find me on LinkedIn, that's a great place. If you're interested in, if you're a sales person and you want to sell more without killing yourself and still have the joy outside, our company's site is untapyoursalespotential.com. And you can talk to our team if you're interested in coaching or any of the stuff that we do. I'm happy to help there as well. But LinkedIn's a good place to start.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ian. This was I don't even have the words, and I usually do. So thank you so much for coming on. Really, really appreciate it.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
That's a wrap for Revenue Mind, where we cut the BS and spotlight mental health and revenue leadership. I'm Jolie. We're reminding you your mindset is your competitive edge. Thanks for listening. See you next time.